Hey guys, how's it going? I'm going to show you guys how to use mill dots in Unturned, since there's a new update which is on adding bullet drop. So I thought it would be good to show you guys how to use mill dots in my method. I would like you guys to note before we get too much in the video. I would like to tell you guys that my method doesn't work every time, especially if you're too far of a distance at times or possibly too close. But do know that my method does work most of the time, and sometimes you just need to eyeball it a bit or adjust just a little bit to your point of view if you think it. So most of it's just logic, practice, and method. So yeah. And if you guys have another method, I would actually like to know also. I mean, if you guys use math during a gunfight or something, just let me know. I would actually be really interested in that. My method has 4 main steps, but if you wish, you can add more steps to it. But the most basic steps of my method is compare your level from the target's level, think about the distance from your target, measure, and then fire. Alright, so firstly, you want to think about your distance from the target. And usually you would be able to tell, especially with the type of gun if you're used to the gun. So from this distance with a grizzly, I'm using a grizzly right now, this shouldn't be too hard of a shot. I mean, it's right in front of you, and it should be directly right at the origin, 0-0, right there, yeah, to get a headshot. And with a 7 times, I believe it's the same thing, but you don't usually need to use mill dots. You would also tell that you don't need to use mill dots if the whole body takes over pretty much the whole bottom of the scope. The whole bottom margin somewhat not really the same for the 7 times scope, but usually you can tell with the type of gun you have, and it's nice to experiment too sometimes. Alright, so now we're changing the instance a bit. Okay, so now I'm gonna check the distance from where I am right now. As I can see, those numbers are pretty far, and I'm pretty sure I would need mill dots for that case. Okay, so now I have the idea that I'm going to have to use mill dots on these zombies. So now I have to move to the next step, which is compare your level from the target's level. Okay, so I'm at their level, meaning that I am on the same street level as they are. And if I'm on that hill, then that's going to change the amount of mill dots. If I'm on top of that building, that's going to change the mill dots and all of that. But another thing that could change your mill dots is your stance. So if they're standing and I am standing, then I won't have to change the amount of mill dots. But if they're crouching and I'm standing, then it changes mill dots. And if I'm prone and they're standing, then that also changes mill dots somewhat bigger. Okay, so now we're going to start using my method in the measuring portion. Alright, so now it's time for measuring. So I consider that I am standing and they are standing, that I don't have to give any slack. So what I generally do, so I'm going to make that black shirted zombie my target. What I usually do is I get the origin of my scope and put it just below the head. And then I measure how tall he is, and he is 3 mill dots low. Okay. So he's 3 mill dots low. Or just about 3 1/4. So then I lift up my scope, and then I aim. I give it roughly. I make sure the head is filling up most of what I possibly will hit with my shot. So since it's 3 1/2, or no, 3 1/4, I lift it up to 3 1/4. I make it the head just about cover 3 1/4. I don't put the 3 1/4 at the top of the head or at the bottom. I put it just about in the middle-ish. That's a hit. Alright, so now we got the easy part over with. But that's not always the case. There's sometimes a different case where you're standing and the target's proning, or you're standing and the target's crouching, or something like that. Well then, that's where these other notes come in. So, if you're 2 stances below a target, give 1.5 to 1 slack upwards roughly. If you're 1 stance below target, give 1 dot slack upward roughly. If you're 2 stances above target, give 1.5 to 1 slack downwards roughly. If you are 1 stance above target, give 1 dot slack downwards roughly. So I'll go over each one with you. And it's good to practice these so that you can keep it in your head. But remember, it's kind of roughly like that, so it's not exactly going to be that. That's why you get the whole head around that kind of area. So, so let's say I'm crouched, okay? I'm crouching. So this is 1 stance. I'm 1 stance below my target. So if I am 1 stance below my target, I give it 1 dot slack upward, okay? So I'm gonna measure my target, black shirt again, and 3.25, right? So now I'm gonna switch that to 2.25 since I'm crouched. So I added 1. I added 1 upward. So here we go. Headshot. All right. So now, what if I am proned? I am 2 below my target. Okay, I am 2 below my target. If I am 2 stances below my target, it's 1.5 to 1 slack upwards, roughly. So, 2 stances below, aim at my target, just below the head. He is, I can't see with these flares in the way. Okay. Just about 3. Let me check again. It's sometimes good to measure twice so you have all the time you need. So, 1, 2, 3. 3. So it's 3 dots. And then it's 1.5 to 1 slack upwards. Okay. So I'm going to give it slack upwards. So now it's going to be 2 dots. And I'm just about to make it in the middle of his head. That was a bit of a miss. It hit the body though. So again, it's not perfect measurements, but it was close. So all you have to do is aim a little bit higher. And headshots. Okay. So now let's switch it up a bit. What if I'm the one standing and my target is crouching? Okay? So basically it's the opposite of 2 stances below and 1 stance below. Instead of 1 dot upward or 1.5 to 1 dot upward, it's going to be 1.5 to 1 downward or 1 downward. Okay? So let's clear that up a little bit more. So let's say my zombie, or my target, is right there. Alright? So the head would be right there if it's 1 stance. So if the zombie is crouching, it would be 1 stance if I'm standing. So then I would give it 1 dot slack downward. So I'm going to measure the top of the head. Or not really top, just about there. That's where the head would be for a crouched zombie. Once I get my air, I'll get a good measurement. So just about a dot. Okay. So now I would give it 2 dots since it's 1 dot downward. Pretty sure you're going to start getting this. And aim it right there. That it would be a direct hit to the head. Okay. Alright, now let's say the zombie was proning 2 stances above, or 2 stances below me, as I am 2 stances above him or it. So I give it, if I am 2 stances above, it's 1.5 to 1 slack downwards, roughly. So I look for the head. The head would be just about the feet, just about right there. So I'm gonna measure its head. That is just about 3/4, or 1.5 to 3/4. So then I would give it 1 dot slack. That would be just about right here. Okay. And then I think it would be more up. And get ready to fire. Get the next breath in. And fire. That would be a headshot. So sometimes you might have to eyeball it and adjust, as I said before. If you think it's different, then go ahead and try it out, because the farther it gets, the harder it will be. And again, it doesn't work with really big distances like that zombie right there. That one you might have to eyeball a bit. So now if you're gonna use a 7x scope, it's basically the same thing. I'll show you really quick. If you're leveled, you aim at the head, top just about below the top, and then 2 dots. 2 dots. Alright, so if I'm 2 stances above my target, or if I'm 2 stances below my target, alright, if I am 2 stances below my target, I just aim at it, measure it, so just about 2, go to 2. It's somewhat different for some reason with 7x. I mean, it's different when there's no zeroing, like in DayZ. So it would be 2, and then it would be 1 and 1/2, and I think it wouldn't really be that one, because that doesn't seem right. It's basically directly hitting. So I'm going to use my head and think that that's not right. I'm not going to do that part of that. I'm not going to use the method on that part. So I'm just going to eyeball it. So then it will be just about, I think it's still 2. So nope, just too high. So I was somewhat right. It's just 1/2 for the 7x then for this case. So that's a body shot just below the head. And that's a headshot. Alright. So yeah, we got the measuring portion done. Alright, so now let's change it up a bit. Let's change it with your level, or the elevation. If I'm higher than the zombie, then there would be a difference in mil dots, and the stances do somewhat have a difference, but not too big. But you could implement the stance, add that into the other method that I'm going to tell you about on here. So let me change it to day real quick. Alright, so firstly, the zombie, it's pretty close. You don't really have to worry about it. Just directly hit. Headshot. Alright. And yeah, you should start getting used to how close they are by now. But now, what if there's a zombie? Where'd he go? Out there. No, that one's not here. How about this one? We'll go a little bit farther by farther. Alright, so there's a zombie like this, okay? He's standing, and he's 4 mil dots down. And my method, or the formula, I guess you can say, is if you're on a tower, it's 1 to 2 mil dot difference upwards. So he's at 4, and then I raise it up to 2. So 2, right there, right at the center of the head. That should hit. Once I get my air ready. Headshots, okay? Average distance. Alright, so now what if he's farther? I tried testing out if adding up the stance method, but it somewhat worked, but didn't. So you might have to like eyeball this a little bit. It gets kind of tougher when they're different stance. But it's still, I'll try out 1 to 2. So head, just about, this one I would probably just say it would be above the head. So I would give it, I'm going to give it 1 dot. And it wouldn't be able to go 1 or 2 upward, or that would be up here. But there's no zeroing, so you can't really do much about that. There's no there's no zeroing in this game, unlike DayZ. If you know what that is, don't worry about it. But I'm gonna give it 2. Nope, it would be at 4. Okay, so you couldn't really measure that. That was too far, and it wouldn't be able to follow through my method. Alright guys, that was basically my method right there, and I didn't really go over the 7x scope or any other other elevations, because I wanted you guys to try it yourself, get used to it, experiment, because that's pretty much how you're gonna learn. You gotta get used to how the bullet drops in most games. That's how I learned in DayZ. So I hope you guys learned something from it. Try it yourself, do anything, and yeah, if you learn, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe. Maybe sooner or later, if I might make another video on referencing distances, as in like figure out what 100 meters would be. But I'm not exactly sure if the developer made it to set up like that, where 100 meters would be 1 mil dot. So I'm just going to tell you guys, try anything for yourself. Any other methods, let me know. Alright, hope you guys have a great day and enjoy life.